The channel is Alex Harmozy. I'm sure some of you have watched or listened to some of his content. He's really exploded on the YouTube scene over the past like 6 to 12 months. I kind of caught wind of him probably about a year ago and was like super impressed with a lot of the stuff he talked about. And what is it about? Guy who's sold his business a couple of times, who does very well, gives a ton of his information experience away in the form of, sales training, sales management, business advice, etc. Highly recommended. So on my vacation, I was, spent more time because I had the time to listen to a lot of the podcasts, the videos, etc. And one of the things, and it's nice to hear from a guy who's just doing, far and above where you're at, is kind of a reminder of the fundamentals. I'm a fundamentals guy, and I'll talk a lot about the fundamentals. And a lot of the fundamentals work not just as a beginner, but also as an experienced person. So hearing it from somebody at the tip top of their game is good. One of the things he said that kind of reminded me of the thing that we all have to remember as a beginner, and certainly, as Alex said, as an advanced and a very experienced, successful salesperson, is that the riches, are in the what? They're in the niches. This is something I have had challenges with. I've had to, reassess myself multiple times as I've scaled the ladder of business success. But the niches are really where the riches are at. Here's what I mean, especially directed towards you guys out there who are getting started. There is so much opportunity in life. I really think this is probably the best time to make money ever. Despite all the headwinds and issues with inflation, recession, if you've got the right mindset and you're resourceful, there's always opportunity out there. And I don't think this time, there's never been a time that existed that had as much opportunity right now for success. And we're in a business that really beholds tons of opportunities for success right now. The problem, of course, is that there's so much opportunity, it's overwhelming, much like getting started in any business is overwhelming. And so you have to choose where you want to be, because trying to be everything to everybody ultimately ends up that you're nothing to nobody. In other words, you just can't do everything and have success. I had an email from a new agent the other day, and I apologize if you see this. I've become more blunt, not because I'm, a jerk, but because I really don't want people to waste their valuable time, and frankly, mine too, if the fit isn't perfect. So I told this gentleman, he's coming in as a PNC agent, and he has this book of business. He wants to cross-sell it, and he wants to lower his investment in the leads to begin with. And my advice to him is like, look, if you're going to come on board with us, we know where the niche is. It's final expense. It's not just the niche of the final expense, but it's also in the process, the strategy, the blueprint. And what we're looking for exclusively are people to follow it entirely, down to a T, because that's the best way to have success in this business. To come in with different strategies, different approaches, multiple products, multiple lines, you start to muddy the water. You start to get things confused. And you end up in a position where, bottom line, you're going to have more difficulty having and seeing success than if you would just follow the system and simplify the process. Another friend of mine in the business, Christopher Westphal, some of you have seen his content on YouTube. He recently sold his business. I don't know the details of the deal, but he started off in final expense, then made the switch to Medicare because his prerogative was, he wanted to get into a residual income stream, which was what we support to here long-term. But he went all in, even more niche than just Medicare, and really became the advocate for Medicare supplements, as Medicare supplements are the best thing since sliced bread. And what he did is built his business on that image and completely consistently executed on it pretty much through 2011 to today, where he sold out his business and built a call center around it, raving fans that loved his business model. And the point is, it started as a niche and it ended as a niche. He didn't change things up dramatically. He still was in the Medicare business. That's where his 90% of his focus existed. And he knew what he was good at. He went all in on what he was good at. Now, how does this all relate to you? It's a good reminder that starting off, your focus and final expense is where it needs to be. If you're on a call here today, most likely your focus and final expense. You may be focused elsewhere, or you may have interest elsewhere. That's okay. But I would remind you to do first things first, and that is to pick your horse and ride it. The more that I've been in this business, the more I realize that this business is way more difficult than it first appears. You're as excited as you can be getting started, but then when you get into the business and you start seeing the script, rebuttals, process, carriers, you start practicing and realize it's not easy. You're now becoming overwhelmed over something as simple as selling as final expense. And it's not easy, but it's simple. But it doesn't mean that it's not difficult. It is to learn and get over the learning curve. So my advice to you out there is if you're thinking of different product lines, don't think about them, but don't take action on them. Set that stuff aside to allow yourself to get some level of proficiency through the focused execution in the niche that you've chosen, most likely here, final expense. Get into Medicare or ACA if that's what you like. We support that. But I always try to make it clear up front. Sometimes it's not clear, and I'll have agents who try to get into a million things. Don't do everything at once if you're brand new. Do one thing at once. And over time, build into the other product lines. Like Steven here too. You know, Steven's always been an annuity guy. We talked like 4 or 5, and he still is. One thing, yeah. And he talked to me years, 4 or 5 years ago, Steven, you did final expense, wanted to do final expense, probably haven't done that much. And that's the norm. People who are really, really good at what they do just end up doing one thing. They know what their niche is. They're really good. They're really comfortable, but they have a depth of knowledge that separates them from the others out there. So anyways, long story short, commit, put blinders on. I've said that a million times, but it's so important. It's very hard to be committed. It's easy to say you're committed, but to be committed when you're in an onslaught of reminders about how great this is, or that product is, or this agency, or whatever, it's difficult. This is a marathon business, not a sprint. Give yourself the time to get good at this, to establish some level of success. And there will be instances in your career where you can, make a lateral move into another product line or add it to the list, because then it becomes a little bit easier to do.